Okay, hi. What I'm going to do for you now is just talk about commentary. Commentary is the process of a driver thinking out loud, basically, and it's something that still puts a lot of people off. A lot of people who want to do their advanced driving test off. It should be noted probably that on neither the ROSPA nor IAM test is it compulsory, but it will kind of gain you some brownie points, and can also be, and much more importantly, is a really useful tool for yourself to develop. To basically improve your driving, because you become kind of like your own driving instructor. Basically, you're very, you can really improve your driving a lot. It's amazing also how much further ahead it makes you look, and how much higher it makes you maintain your vision. In other words, you're looking up at stuff in the distance as opposed to just kind of your eyes dropping and not scanning that far ahead. So I think it's a really useful tool, apart from wanting to impress the examiner with it. So commentary, how do we do it? Basically, what we're doing when we're doing commentary is we're driving along and we're talking about out loud. It's kind of key that you do it out loud. You can do it in your head, but it's generally not. I don't think it's as effective. I think it's really good to do it out loud. If you want to, if you're practicing it and you're aware that other drivers are looking at you, maybe they're not. All they're thinking is that you're using a hands-free on a mobile phone, which still isn't illegal. So and you're actually doing something that's really worthwhile. So don't worry about that. No one's going to think that you're an oddball or whatever, just for talking to yourself when you're driving along, because they'll just assume you're on the phone. So what do we do when we talk out loud when we're driving along? And what we're talking about is what we can see, what we can't see but reasonably can expect to happen, and then finally what we're planning to do about it. And it's a dynamic plan. It's not, obviously there's a lot to it really. There's a couple of key things that you want to do when you're driving along and doing commentary. You want to not get fixated on any particular hazard, just as you wouldn't when you're driving along without doing it. You wouldn't let your eyes just gaze at a hazard to the detriment of any other hazard on the road. You'd be constantly scanning between hazards. So as a new hazard's come into view, you're raising your gaze and talking about them, and you're also dealing with them, and talking about what you're going to do. And once you've made yourself safe, you can talk about the next hazard. And the next thing you want to do is prioritize. Obviously, if we're driving through town, there's going to be several hazards in view at any one time. And although you may be, it's good to try and mention as many of those as you can. What you want to do, if you don't have time to do that, and you don't have certainly time to talk about what you're planning to do at them all, is talk about the ones that are most important. And generally, the most important hazards are the most vulnerable road users. For example, pedestrians and cyclists. And the most vulnerable of those are the ones that look like they're going to step out in front of you, or look like you have any reason, that you might come into conflict with them. So that's your priority. And then you can, so generally what you find is there's too much to say. And you should really not find that there's not enough to talk about. If you find there's not enough to talk about, you're probably not doing it right. What's probably happening is that you're just drying up, basically. And the way to kind of combat that is just go back to basics, just talk about what the road is doing, and then layer on top of that what traffic signs are telling you, and then layer on top of that what other road users are doing, and what can be reasonably expected to happen, and what you're going to plan to do about it. And those kind of layers that I just talked about are also a good way to start doing it in the first place. So as we start off, we can talk about just what the road's doing, and then we can add to that what traffic signs are doing, and then we can add to that what other road users are doing, and what we plan to do about all of those things. The other thing that's really useful is you want to be very brief with your words when you're doing it. You don't want to be driving along, I'm not suggesting that you drive along and everything's an essay. You'll develop your own style of kind of doing it, but my style is quite brief. I have a lot of kind of key phrases that I just kind of come out with when I see a hazard that they're applicable to. For example, if there's a car approaching me from the left, from a junction from the left, and I don't have eye contact with the driver, and I suspect that we're going to have to do something like that, I won't say there's a car approaching me from a left junction and I don't have eye contact with the driver. What I'll say is one towards from the left threatening, we do not have eye contact, or something like that. So you'll hear me doing it a little bit in a minute, but and that's so it's brevity of phrases basically. And what you can do over time is build up a little database of stock phrases that you just use. For example, if there's one car coming towards me, it doesn't pose a problem. I'll just say something like one towards, no danger, or one towards, not a problem. And instead of saying stuff like mirror checks or looking in the mirror or scanning or looking in the mirror, you can just say what's behind you. It's implicit then that you've checked your mirror. Or if you just want to say mirror, just say mirror, the word mirror. That's enough. Just to you can say near side mirror, offside mirror if you look in your wing mirrors as well. if you find, well, generally what you'll find is that you are not keeping it up with what you're seeing, or that you're not, you're finding it all too rushed. You're finding that there's too much to talk about. Again, come back to prioritize, but also just take it down a notch. Go back one layer. Just go back to talk about what the road is doing if you're finding that's too much, and then build up the layers again and keep practicing it that way. I would suggest. Some people would suggest that you slow down the car and you find a nice quiet road to drive on where you can do it all quite slowly and take it all in. I go the other way. I think that you should just drive normally and talk about less, basically, because it's not as if the rest of it's not going on in your head. If you do find, and for some people, you do find that it's a detriment to their driving, it may affect you negatively a little bit. Okay, so obviously you don't want to do anything dangerous, but it can be worth persevering with at first. But if you really do find that, it's really upsetting you and that, you're not able to drive and talk at the same time, then maybe it's just not for you. I guess there are some people who like that. But for the vast majority of people, I'd suggest it's worth persevering with, and it's a really good tool to use. So let's have a go at it then.